Sure. And just everyone, make sure you have your mics pointed towards you and green light on if you're speaking in. Chair Kimsey,
Here.
Vice Chair O'Neill,
Here.
Commissioner Fulop, here. Commissioner Wachowski,
Here.
Commissioner Caldi,
Here.
and Commissioner Evans.
Here.
And Commissioner Turgeon had notified us that she will not be making it today, so we'll note that Kimberly Turgeon is absent. And we have a quorum, and from staff, we have Brian Edwards, Library and Museums Director, and Assistant Library Director Melissa Mejia. Yeah, and I can just note for members of the public that would like to comment today, please raise your Zoom hand on the screen when notified. You can dial in by telephone and enter webinar ID 161-622-2299 if you're attending by Zoom. And if you're also attending by phone, dial *9 if you'd like to raise your Zoom hand during that appropriate section. I'll turn it over to the chair.
Okay, so we have our first presentation, the update on museums tour fees.
Yeah, so this is just a kind of a verbal presentation we could do. We could show it on the screen if you prefer. But the want to update that we have changed the museum tour fees schedule as was approved by council during the master fee schedule. This is in an effort to get cost recovery in terms of the museum tours. So we have increased the base tour fee to $100 for 4 people as of July 1. So any tours that come in, and these are for private tours. So this is sites like Pacific Biological Laboratories, Colton Hall, as well as Pacific Biological Laboratories, Presidio Monterey Museum, and Colton Hall. We do a private tour. The museums are still free to access at different public hours and times. So if you go to the Presidio Monterey Museum, Saturdays and Sundays 10 to 4, you're welcome to go in there and go into the museum. But if you're scheduling a time for us to bring in a private tour, we will charge for that. And then we started adding a $100 school fee, and that was because we get when we have schools, we end up having to have generally multiple staff kind of help out to facilitate those school visits. And we do have we've increased some of our other fees, which we haven't started yet. We'll come back to the commission later. One of those was one that we talked about at one of the earlier meetings, was to have a booking fee. We have to come up with kind of a procedure and policy with that, but that would be $250 an hour minimum. It used to be $30 an hour when they used to do Pacific Biological Laboratories. So this would allow some use of some of these facilities once we create a policy. The policy would have to go through our city attorney as well. So that's why we're waiting on that, but created the fee schedule so that we could create the policy to match it later on.
Outside of school tours, do we get many private tours?
Yeah, so I could say, for example, I won't put in the people's, what do you call it? I won't put in their things on the screen because it's, a lot of private information. But so, for example, this month, we have tomorrow we have a Presidio Monterey tour. We have a Colton Hall tour. We have a Colton Hall tour on Monday. We have 2 Pacific Biological Lab tours next week. Wow. The following week, we have 2 Pacific Biological Lab tours. We then also have the clampers coming for Colton Hall and the Presidio Monterey that week. The following week, we have another Pacific Biological Lab tour, a Colton Hall school tour, and another Pacific Biological Lab tour. So that's to say, right now, this month, it's not every day, but we have 6 Pacific Biological Lab tours. We have 4 Colton Hall tours and 2 Presidio Monterey Museum tours. So we have increased our tours. And part of that is because that we, thanks to Melissa for working on this, was to add a book a tour webpage. And one of the things before was you had to contact somebody by email or phone, and it was hard for people to figure out how to do a tour. So we put it on there that this is how you could book a private tour. So that has helped. We don't have a lot of, we rely heavily, like Presidio Monterey, on our docents, which are retired veterans. At the Pacific Biological Laboratory, we have people from all different parts of life, as well as myself or Brianna, Melissa. We also host tours over there too, as we can. And same thing with Colton Hall. You know, we're kind of all in. So we're kind of limited in terms of like we're managing it as we can with limited staff to get in there. But having it online has helped our schools be aware of how they can contact us, where they can do it. And then we send them usually a payment link. They pay either by credit card or mail us a check. And this, in our opinion, will help to increase the cost recovery for staffing of the part-time staff for museum operations, and also help with just support and help with getting people into the museum doors. I also wanted to highlight that we have recently opened Colton Hall back to 7 days a week. And I know that was something that, speaking with Commissioner Evans, multiple years, that was a big thing that we were trying to do. And so there are some times when we are low on a staff member, but we have our museum attendants who have been great in us providing that daily increase of hours. We had done a quiet opening of Mondays, and Mondays was actually a good day because a lot of state park sites are closed on Monday. So if you go to Custom House, Pacific House, like people visit here 7 days a week. And so we're getting more people and more traffic inside of our museum there. Presidio Monterey Museum, we're still at Saturdays and Sundays. We get docents that go in and out. Our two long-term docents, Dennis and Richard, do a great job in terms of being there regularly and providing service. And as I mentioned, they're both retired veterans, and so they really appreciate serving there at that community. So that's the kind of site that we do work often with DLI when they need tours, and we work with their command historian to actually provide tours. So those are things that we will work with them one-off. And as I mentioned, the Pacific Biological Laboratories, we do our second Saturday free tours still, which are 2 free tours, and then we do open hours, and then mostly private. And a lot of people really enjoy having the availability of private tours there. So there are options of, there are kind of, in my mind, I want to just preface back to, I think this is a capacity kind of an issue at some point too, just about who provides, because we can't always have just docents go to like Pacific Biological Laboratory, because then we have to have somebody with the key and alarm, set things up, take it down. So there's stuff that needs to happen in terms of security of a facility like that. So that's why we have some limitations there. But, you know, I feel that some of those sites that we could increase opportunities for some of these tours, and they would be able to be booked, because there is enough tourists and there's enough visitors in some of those sites like that, that if we were to publicly post it, it could get the return in some of that revenue. But we would need an increase in terms of our museum attendance or some of our volunteer docents. So the numbers that I talk about, you know, the kind of the tours that we're doing throughout the week, I think are kind of at, we do as much as we can, and we've been handling the tours there. But that's just a brief update, and kind of like I wanted all of the commission to know that we had increased our hours at Colton Hall, that we have done an online booking form, and that has helped us out as increased the attendance, and that has also allowed us to manage the bookings, because when we book it, if we were to use a third-party booking system, there are opportunities also for us to book through a third-party vendor that sells tickets. But then if we did that, there's a percentage that gets cut from there, and it could be a fairly large percentage. So we're balancing that right now as well about how do we do that. So I'm happy to answer any questions on this or any comments.
So where are they publicized? For example, the lab tours, where are they publicized? You said not publicly, but do you just put a sign out on the days it's open?
No, so we actually book them through the public tours. We book through the library. So we've also, I should add, we have the public tours of Pacific Biological Laboratories are bookable through the library museum's event page. And we usually post them on the city events page as well. And then sites like the Monterey County Weekly pulls all of our events and usually puts it on their calendar as well. Those events we actually did, and I will note that we put 2 of the scheduled events and 1 that's a open hours, because what was happening is it's really hard to park in Cannery Row. So we may have a max 15 people and 8 show up. But people that are walking and leaving the aquarium in the afternoon are wanting to see the building. So that's why we did open hours, to increase that traffic. So the events are posted on the Library and Museum's website. And we also just recently started doing free walking tours for Colton Hall through the Library and Museum's website as well, to increase traffic and people awareness of Colton Hall events. And it's the same place where our past commissioner, Tim Thomas, he does the Fisherman's Wharf walking tour, and we coordinate that also through the Library and Museum's website. So we've put those things all on the library website. It's also on the museum's page. So if you look up Pacific Biological Laboratories, you'll find our website, which we've updated, and we've added a link on there, like book a tour, so that people could book it there too. So it's helpful for the public and ourselves.
Thank you.
A quick couple questions.
Yeah,
With regarding the fees,
yeah.
so is there a maintenance impact amount that's baked into the fees? Because $100 seems very, very low. That's my first question.
Yeah, so what they're looking at, so on the fee like that, they looked specifically at, I don't know if you were at the council meeting when they looked at the master fee schedule, and one of the codes and the state laws that you can't charge above, like, there's like a reasonable rate, and you can't charge above things for public access, like public events, reasonable rate. So what they did is they did everything based on a specific salary. So they weren't doing it on number of times you have to refinish the floor or things like that. What they're doing it based on is what's the fully impacted salary. So if we're basing it on our artifact specialist salary, we're basing it based on their hourly salary, as well as their benefits, all of the things that, like when you look at a person's salary, that's not the full salary. It's all of the other things, salary and employee benefits and things in there. So that was the fee that we looked at on there. And so we looked at, what does 1 hour charge for that? And it's $100 for the first 4 people, and each individual additional to that is an additional $15. So we did keep the school fees low, because we do have schools that have limited funds and it's hard for them to get in there. But we felt that $100 at least covered that one staff member's time to provide that tour for that time. Hopefully that clarifies.
That clarifies some of it. I'm still wondering where in the details of the budgets that the maintenance costs are coming from, and it sounds like it's not going to be covered by any type of an admission fee for clarification purposes.
Right. So I would say things like, we don't have in our museum budget, there is no budget specific line item for us for maintenance. That would be under Public Works. Mm-hmm. Right. So what you would see on there, and the last time, and that maintenance is often things like that might be right now, it's very on a site like Pacific Biological Lab or Colton Hall, it's often minimal unless there are things like the larger project that we submitted for NCIP. Mm-hmm. There is not a specific amount that's set aside every year for, let's say the floors have they used to hand wax the floors. And the hand waxing of the floors maybe hasn't been done for about 15 or 20 years. So those are things that have to be done, but they're not in our budget for that. So it's just kind of, it's missing on our side of like how we contract that.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Mm-hmm. The other is on the third-party vendor for the payments. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to break off the additional fees, much like we're all paying a credit card fee now mm-hmm. when we go to purchase anything from anywhere? Is there some type of a convenience fee or something that can be added in there so that it's not coming out of the admission fee?
Yeah, and I will say because it's a contract and I haven't signed anything, the person came to present something, someone go over the full percentage, but it was a pretty large, there were some large websites that actually do things based also off of people's like airline points, hotel points. And then that gets transferred into like a PayPal payment, and they take a double-digit percentage off of it. So I think that would be something to negotiate, because do we charge them, the rate, because our return rate should be $100 or 15, right? So is there a way for us to increase the rate if we're selling it through a third party? That would be something to negotiate and discuss with them, but it would be something where people could either pay direct through credit card or through airline miles, or book on, like if you're booking a trip on a travel website, they say, oh, what cool things are there to do? And you click and you buy your package, you then would get reimbursed after your package is complete. So I could see that as a possibility. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Nope.
No. Okay, we have no consent agenda this time.
So can we just make sure if there's any comments online, if there's any attendees? No attendees online?
None.
All right, thank you. Bless you.
Appearance, no one is here. All right, so item number 2, the annual appointments for chair and vice chair.
Yeah, so this is as you see the packet, if you looked in the packet, the rules we have are a little long, but are, so just to point out that in July of each commission chooses to appoint new members as chair and vice chair, and typically the position that is vice chair typically goes into the chair role, but there's also the part that the person that has, read off this one, the first one for anybody that is watching online or not, but the position of chair shall rotate annually to the member who has the longest current period of continuous service on the board or commission without having served as chair. And then the position of vice chair shall rotate annually to the member who has the second longest current period of continuous service without having served as chair. If the member selected as vice chair is on the board or commission at the time the next chair is selected, she shall become chair. So that's where typically the vice chair moves into, section 2 is essentially where the vice chair moves into the chair role. And then if 2 or more members have the same longest or second longest period of continuous service without having served as chair, the board commission shall determine by vote which one serves as chair or vice chair first. And then no member may serve as chair or vice chair for more than 1 year at a time. No member may serve as second or greater term as chair or vice chair unless all their qualified members have subsequently served as such or now declined to serve as such. And all members who have served on their respective board or commission for at least 6 months shall be qualified to serve as chair. And a board or commission member may decline to serve as chair or vice chair. In the event a member otherwise eligible for selection declines the position, the member next in seniority and continuous service without having served as chair shall be selected. The declining member, if still on the board or commission at the time of the next rotation, will be eligible for the position again at that time. And it says number 7 is, it is express intent of this policy that the positions of chair and vice chair shall be rotated among members of boards and commissions to the greatest extent possible, with no person serving more than 1 year at a time or consecutive reappointments. Any confusions or questions regarding this policy shall be referred to the City Council for clarification or resolution. And this was something that I've found that since my time here, this policy has been enacted here by the Museums and Cultural Arts Commission, that we've consistently operated by this policy. So that's where I put on here, bless you, in terms of what years people have served as chair, just so you'll see on there. But to note that we had 3 appointments all on the same date. So Commissioner Fulop, Commissioner Caldi, and Commissioner Turgeon all were appointed on the exact same date. We had 3 vacancies at that time. So based on our guidelines, the recommendation is, if he chooses to accept the role, is that the recommendation would be that Commissioner O'Neill would step into the chair position. And then the recommendation would be that either Commissioner Fulop, Commissioner Caldi, or Commissioner Turgeon would be the vice chair for 2027. So with that, those are on my side. I open it up for questions, comments, and discussion.
Well, I guess I would ask the two new members, are you both interested in being vice chair?
I am not at this time.
Oh. Well, I think that makes our decision easy.
Well, Commissioner Fulop, are you interested?
I am up to the challenge.
Okay. I recommend that John and
Amen.
Ms. Keelan be selected as chair and vice chair.
I'll second that.
And Vice Chair O'Neill, are you accepting of the role as chair for this coming year too?
I'm willing to accept.
All right.
Yes.
And do we have a second for Commissioner Wachowski's?
Yeah, I'll second it.
You second? Okay, personal. Okay.
Do we need to vote?
Yes. And just do you can just all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we have any? There's no public attendance, right? No public attendance at this time. All right.
So,
Great. That was
so the next thing is the Colton Hall.
Music program.
Yes,
music program. Yeah. And I'll turn over some of this to Chair Kimsey as well, because I feel that the concerts went really well this year for those who are in attendance. And I know I saw many of you in attendance at different concerts, but I felt like the timing of 4 p.m. worked really well, and that we had a good size. We adjusted the size of the room as needed and used the benches when needed. And the chairs that I had ordered worked really well. And so we're looking at continuing this. I will state there's one other comment on here too, which is about there's on there, and we can discuss this kind of separately from that, which is also to note that we're interested in possibly doing, it might be somewhat of a music event, but like a Colton Hall ball, like some kind of like a dance or something around Halloween time. And this would be a ticketed event. It would be something to raise funds for Colton Hall Museum. And the thought with that would be the day after the California Constitutional Convention ended, they took out the tables and they had a big dance inside of Colton Hall. So this would be something the tables are pretty large. I don't even know if I can get those out. But if we could figure out a way to put them aside, but even just having a small thing to look into this is something that our team has had some interest in, about having events like this that help us bring in new people into Colton Hall, and it can help bring in some revenue to the site. So with that, but I'd like to turn it over to Chair Kimsey for any comments on the concert series and moving forward.
okay, well, we did discuss the concert series, and I think we have sort of 3 dates that we've looked at. These aren't final, but Brian was reviewing the calendars, various calendars, to see if they would work. October 10th or 11th that weekend, November 14th or 15th, and December 12th. And Brian, did you come up with anything on December 12th? That was a big question.
And let me pull this up one more time too. I'm going to pull this in here. What I wanted to make sure is I like to look at what's going on in the community as well, just for that, just to make, it's hard to find sometimes this far in advance, but one of the things, as I was mentioning, as Chair Kimsey and I spoke about it, is that if you know there's like a high school graduation or some big event happening on the lawn, we just don't want to interfere with those kind of things. The 12th, and when I looked it up, was okay.
That's 3 dates. Is there a
3.
Oh,
I think we're just going to do 3.
it says 4.
Well, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
We probably will do more in the spring, but we have so many holidays toward the end of the year, and then we have, Labor Day to start out, and we don't usually start before that. We don't do August and such. So I think I'm going to kind of work with that. I have some groups that are interested that I've contacted, and I love doing this. If no one objects, I'd like to continue doing it. I think it was very well attended, and it grew and grew. I mean, we had, I think, 96 at one of the concerts, which was just fantastic. We do have the prices set, and I haven't had any problem with the people accepting that amount. I know it's not a high amount, but they want to perform at Colton Hall. It's something really special. And Brian says we do have the staff to cover. But we didn't have any problem with added costs and that sort of thing. So that's, I think, all I have to add. Brian, if you have anything else, we'll move forward on that. And the
Sounds great.
Yeah, just in case there's any other feedback from the commissioners or any thoughts on that, and, you know,
Any other comment would be, John would be a great background on the Halloween ball, because they do one at Point Sur Lighthouse
oh, yeah.
as a major fundraiser. We were there last year when they were setting it up, and it was quite dramatic.
And what is the date for yours? Do you have one this year?
It's the Saturdays, the 2 Saturdays before Halloween.
So that's the 24th, which we were looking at.
Okay.
So we
So
need to consider that.
I can connect with Chair O'Neill as well. I think it'd be great to, we're just looking at, we don't have anything planned right now, but I mean, like, we want to just get something on the calendar because we thought it would be a nice event here. I think people are often looking for events that they could do around that time of year. So,
And as far as the tickets go, is there a set amount or amount we're limited to, or anything in the
we,
rules and regulations?
you know, I mean, we have like I think that I don't know if we would probably have to look at the stated occupancy, how we, specifically because you're moving. Like if it is a dance or, you know, listening, like I would say might be kind of small actually, based on the room size, getting everything out. But then also we would want to make sure to have all the restrooms open down the hallway, you know, out there, because that could be an issue when you're having an event like that. You want to make sure you have ample restrooms in there. But
And you're going to be working on those aspects?
yeah, and we'll work on like kind of what an average. I mean, I'd be happy to talk with John about that, about what the kind of pricing is too, because you want to make it feel like people would buy tickets for an event like that here too. I just think it's something that it wouldn't be a very big event, but it would be something I feel that would be kind of exclusive, and it would be something different, and people would enjoy something like that. We could tie that into touring the jail or something like that as well, you know, for spooky, and people like that kind of stuff as well.
Yes. Get a couple of people in costume, or we have, you may have observed last year that mysteriously somebody is under the bridge howling or something.
Right.
People like that stuff. Maybe there's a prisoner still in the jail who
Yeah.
can't get out.
Well, I've told that story before when I worked as a community development director and we had school classes come into the jail. I used to send one of my junior planners there and start banging on the wall saying, "Let me out, let me
Yes,
out."
there you go.
Scared the heck out of us.
Any other comments? No? Okay, item 4, the update on the Ferguson funds.
Yeah, so that's back to me. And so what to highlight, this will also maybe up on KSBW tonight or tomorrow, because they called and asked me about it. So we filmed briefly over at the Presidio Monterey Museum earlier this afternoon. So Major General Robert Ferguson served in the cavalry here in Monterey, and then also was commander at Fort Ord. And his son served in Vietnam, and his son passed away in Vietnam as well. But at the time, Commander Ferguson served served all around the country, was stationed in West Point as well. So has a long and kind of storied career. There's photos of, at that time, Commander Ferguson with Ronald Reagan, when Reagan was filming a film over at the Presidio, and when Reagan was an actor. And also he was in Hawaii during Pearl Harbor. So, but when Ferguson passed away later on, when his wife passed away, they left as part of their estate funds that went to go to the Presidio of Monterey Museum. So with that, there are some, we currently have in the funds $90,445 is how much we have in this Ferguson fund at this time. And this is to be used, primarily we used it for staffing and collections in the past. They used it for the artifact specialist in the past. years during COVID time. That's where some of the artifact specialist staffing funding was coming from, was from the Ferguson Fund. And now we can use it for collections, for the facility, for specifically the Presidio of Monterey Museum. The action to approve this is through City Council. And City Council would bring a City Council agenda report, and they would have to approve the transfer of funds from the trust fund from that Ferguson Trust Fund into our museum's trust fund for expenditure. But I wanted to highlight there's several projects that are of need here in our Presidio of Monterey Museum. One is the roof. If you look there, that roof is about the past 2 winters has been leaking. There's some areas where it's at that age where it needs a full replacement. It has just been, their shakes have been redone over time, and so the full roof needs to be replaced. And then also the area that it leaks is directly over the electrical closet and the alarm closet. So that's, can cause further issues of something like that if we don't fully fix that error, because then you have leaking coming in, then you end up with all kinds of other issues. So there's a patch on it at this time, but when we've had heavy wind, the tiles are coming off. From our understanding, even though the building is owned, as a reminder, by the United States Army, it is not owned by the city of Monterey. We lease the facility, but the lease states that we maintain that part of it. So it's our understanding that from our property management division that we are responsible for replacing the roof on that facility. And I have notified, by the way, I send a report to the United States Army Property Management and to the commander regarding all of the maintenance we have at the Presidio. And we've notified them already, just for clarity, that we've notified them that this roof is in need of replacement past couple of years. So they're aware. And then the side door, which comes in, there's a ramp that was built when there was work done. There's a door that's there, and the door is just, the full layers are peeling off the door. The door is just damaged, and we would like to get a new door there as well. So another part on there is I would like to add another mannequin. We've had many different mannequins in there, but we have a drawing on the wall that's of a Spanish soldier coming in. We have these Spanish soldiers, but all of the soldiers in uniform right now are American. And the site is actually known under the National Register of Historic Places by the National Park Service. It is nationally designated site, but that site is known as El Castillo for its service under the Spanish and Mexican era of government as well. So just to state that I think that we should have a mannequin of there. And Monterey History and Art Association has an outfit that was used during the Dianza recreation in 1976. So it's a 50-year outfit that's based on a Spanish soldier that would have come up in Monterey. So we're looking at borrowing that to put that on a mannequin so that we have somebody that can look at the Spanish era, then going into early American era. And then also Colonel Roger Fitch, who served as the commander as well of both the Presidio Monterey as well as the Fort Ord, and he was one of the founders of the Monterey History and Art Association. Colonel Fitch also created the Path of History along with Laura Bride Powers. So Colonel Fitch was instrumental in saving history. They were very interested in history, architecture, art, and preserving all of this around Monterey. And so Colonel Fitch, if you go to Monterey's birthday, we have the La Merienda sword that's on our display of there, and that's Colonel Fitch's saber that he used at the time, and his wife used it for cutting the first kind of the birthday cake, for Monterey's birthday cake. So that's brought out every year. We bring it back to Monterey History and Art Association. They use it to cut the cake, then they clean it, we put it back on display. They actually own Colonel Fitch's service revolver, and they've offered to loan that out too. Now, if we were to put up something like that, I would like to remove a firing pin and get a locking case so that we can have that on display inside of the museum. We currently have a replica of a machine gun in there, so we do have a replica firearm, and we do have some other rifles inside of there from service members. So we feel this fits with some of our other items that are in there. But Colonel Fitch has such a big place in history here in Monterey that it might be good to have more objects from him as well. And then we'd also like to put in some kind of digital display that's just a rotator of images. We have a couple videos that play that show movies and they go on during the weekend that rotate it out. The site does not have internet. Going back, I did not want to pay monthly for an internet service on a site like that because we don't get enough traffic to pay for it, and it's not on a city network, so, and it's not wired in because of the site it is on the Presidio. So I would prefer to have something, a screen of some sort where we could just highlight, upload images we have of historic, the Defense Language Institute, Presidio Monterey, and different military images or images of the area that we could put on a rotator. So I don't have a full number yet. I'm trying to get another bid for the roof from our Public Works Department to get another bid on that, because that's going to be by far the largest is going to be the bid on that roof. But these are the items that I'm planning on going forward to City Council for approval, but I wanted to bring it forward to talk with the Museums Commission and get any feedback and thoughts on this.
I don't know if you got my note, Brian, but I asked, is there a ballpark estimate of how much those 5 items would cost? Especially the roof?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure on the roof. I mean, what I could say is the door is a standard size door. I looked at that. So you're looking at under about $1,000. The mannequin and everything in there landed with any kind of additional pieces like clothes and stuff like that. I think it's like just about $500. Display case too, we looked at that before, and work on the revolver is maybe about $1,000. So with that, and then the digital display case, digital display maybe $2,000. So if those smaller items right there, you're looking at $4,500 to $5,000, and it's really the roof, which to me is the wild card, because I believe that space is about, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's around 2,000 square feet of facility, and I need to see kind of what the going rate is from getting bids in on that roof of what that would be. So if we could get that, then I would know on that.
Is the trust fund invested?
It is. I don't know where, because we get the returns that come back from the city.
How do the returns compare to all this? In other
So
words, sounds like we're going to start spending principal, which is not a good plan normally.
yeah, I mean, if we were to just go with the sides of the door, I think we earned on interest about $2,800 last year, I believe it was, on that. I can look to get the exact number, but I believe it was around $2,800 in interest on that fund last year. And so, yeah, we'd have like about 5,000. So of course that's more on there. But on the other side is that we don't have a fund or a plan for that roof. And I'm going to say, like, I don't have any other. We have a trust fund we have a museums trust fund as well that does accrue funding that's specific. This is a fund that's specifically for the Presidio Monterey Museum. It's the only fund that we have that's really dedicated towards that. But we don't have another fund that's going to help pay for this. We've got a lot of capital expenses and needs all throughout the city. And I'm concerned that if we don't do something about the roof now, then we're going to have an even larger cost in the future for other things, whether that's the damage to the floor or foundation or, not just the structure of the roof as well. So that's just to say it might eat up a good percentage of it, but it's in terms of like, we need a plan to address this as soon as possible, in my opinion.
Do you have an idea when we will have figures on the roof and such?
I'll follow up with our public works staff that work at the Presidio. We have public works staff that work up at the upper Presidio. So I've been in contact with them about it. So I asked them to get additional quotes, but I haven't gotten a date yet.
It's good to have a roof when it's not the rainy season.
Yes, exactly. When you're not
Scheduled.
when you're not scheduling in November and December, you
Yeah.
can, right?
Is this wood shingle roof?
I believe it's actually composite. It's a composite roof. It's like the comp tiles. Yeah, it's not like a wood it's not like a wood shake kind of a shingle,
Okay.
but it is a composite that's on like a wood base.
Okay. It's not gravel and tar.
No, it's not gravel and tar. No.
This is cheaper then. Yes.
Yeah.
On the roof issue, are there any grants available? Are there any solar incentives if we were to go to some type of a solar system?
Solar, we'd have to look at, I don't know if the ability of doing that, that's a good question on there. The grants, speaking of grants, I would say I am not aware of any right now because I can talk about this in the director's report. Our next 2 years are allocated to one grant that we typically get for historic structures in this area's community foundation, Monterey County. And I did get the grant that we applied for regarding the Granizo mural. That's 2 years, that's $50,000 each year. But that was only those 2 years. So that would be something that we would have to do on a grant on that. The other one typically that people do a lot here, I know that like Monterey State Historic Park did this for the Sherman's Quarters and things. In Sherman's Quarters, what they did is Monterey State Historic Park Association put out a MC Gives campaign to raise funds for that. And then they actually had their state trainees. So they brought in trainees that were state workers, did the trainees, and they did it as a trainee program for doing historic structures. So that was a interesting partnership when you could do things like that, but it was funded primarily through MC Gives. We don't have a nonprofit that applies for MC Gives campaigns for Presidio, unfortunately. And then the other one, the historic structures, most things like the community's grants that were available through Panetta's office, I believe those were not for museums. They do them for libraries and other centers, but they don't do them for museums. So I don't know if there's any leeway on something like that. So that one was not available through federal appropriation. And then the National Park Service, their large grant was Save America's Treasures. And those were sites that were on anything on the National Register and you could apply for it. Those grants have been removed by the federal government. But the current administration has canceled all of those. So there's no funding for that. That's the type of grant that did the roof and work at the First Theater. So that was done through Save America's Treasures. So I was just to say there's not a lot of grants that do on physical infrastructure as much, unless it's like private fundraising of that.
Another reason to have museums, what were we talking about? Foundation, Monterey Museums Foundation. That's 501c3, so we can use it to get people to donate.
Right, and that is the thing. So like the library has a Friends and Foundation, which is a separate organization. They do raise funds. They are actually the ones that put forth the project for the Monterey County Gives proposals. So that we got, I think, $91,000 last year for general operating support for library programs, services, and collections. And so with that, there are other things, but you do have to have a 501c3 with a board of directors and bylaws and have an agreement with the city and everything like that, which we just don't have at this time.
We've used the old Monterey Foundation on occasion. Is that something we could?
That's a possibility. We do that for the 4th of July and Old Monterey Business Association. Unfortunately, there's some downsides to that because even though we're just a pass-through organization, our normal revenue is way under 50,000. But when we start collecting money for OMBA and Colton Hall, it goes way above 50,000, even though we have about the same amount of money, but the reporting goes ridiculous. But it is something to consider. I mean, I could sit down with you and Brian and go over that and bring it up to our board. I know we've talked about that before. And when we went to the nonprofit attorney, that's what she said. Or we went to our city attorney. She said, rather than going through all that thing with the state reporting and everything else, try to hook on to a local nonprofit association, life would be a lot easier.
Yeah. What about using the library foundation? Is there a way to, I've forgotten the right word, but to earmark a certain part of the funds that are coming into it for a special project, or is that too complicated?
It's unfortunately, it's not in their bylaws of what their,
okay, well,
what their role is on there. So that's where you have to run in there about like
Okay.
what, that's the thing about like what sites are you involved in investing in? Because then if you donate to to a foundation and then the foundation decides I'm going to give money to another organization, that can get really messy. So that's the other part. That's where we want to make sure. I would just say, if it became if the organization was a Monterey Public Library and Museums Friends and Foundation, which is even longer term, if it was a longer term, they would have to update, when they're recruiting board members, when they're doing their bylaws and who they're serving, and then it would be available, but it's not currently.
Yeah, okay.
So is there anything
So
like go?
is that going to be simpler than starting our own Monterey Museums Foundation?
Simpler? I don't think so. I would just say the other part to think of is that our museums are quite unique in my opinion. And the reason I say that is because we have Pacific Biological Laboratories, which is interest of people that are really into marine biology and John Steinbeck. We've got people that are California history and interested in Colton Hall and early America. And then we also have people that are veterans quite often. There's overlap, right? But there's people that are like, I served in Fort Ord, or my grandfather served in the Presidio of Monterey. They were in the cavalry. And we get these people that are really interested in the Presidio Monterey Museum. Some of those people aren't even here in California. They come here to visit and they say like, I want to visit here or go to Sloat Monument. And that's to say, I feel like ours are so diverse because we just have different interests. There's different interests in our community about so many layers of history that there is one part where it's like, it could be something regarding like, museums or historic, whatever it would be called. But even with that, they'd have to really shape their messaging, like donate towards, saving the legacy of John Steinbeck and Ed Ricketts and Cannery Row one quarter. And then the next quarter is, did you know about the founding of California here in Alta, California? It's so vast, varied.
Quick question about the Fitch Service Revolver.
Mm-hmm.
How is it currently stored and displayed?
It is in the archive of Monterey History and Art Association. It is not on display.
Okay.
It's not ours either right now. So it's still in Monterey History and Art Association storage, and they have a climate controlled storage that they have over at the Stanton Center, but they don't have it on display.
So it's just not easily portable.
No.
Darn it. Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope. Do you need a motion?
No, not on this, but thanks for the feedback, and I can connect back after I hear more on this too.
Okay, that sounds good.
Any information reports or staff comments? Staff comments?
Staff comments. I can just mention, if you guys did not see the flags at Colton Hall, we'll have them on, I believe, 4th of July. We may be open limited just because of how busy it gets, about 11 to 3, I think is the current plan. We'll have Colton Hall open, but all throughout the month of July, go and visit and take a look at the different historic flags that we have on display, from John Fremont to 31 Star United States flag and early Mexican flag.
So we'll be there this Saturday.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So we've got that up there, and we're really happy to have those up there in time for America 250, and to just highlight some of how California influenced a lot of this area through Monterey. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we got the $100,000 for the Granizzo mural. That's $50,000 towards removal, $50,000 towards installation. And I currently do not have an updated plan of when and everything, because what they're looking at, the bid came in from the company, which I felt was way too high. And because it's a, I don't want to put it out there because I feel like we need to have, we need to either put it out for bid or do it internally. We're going to have some further discussions, and we want other people, if they put it in a bid, as a competitive bid out there for it. But it is a large cost, but I'm very happy to get the additional funding to help remove the tiles. Most likely, I think we're going to do it after Car Week, because we don't want to do all of the, removal. And then if it extends into Car Week, and that's the main avenue for service personnel is coming through that back right next to that wall, that could be really a problem, getting in there, because that's one of the largest revenue generators right there coming in there. So we don't want to mess with that right now. So that'd be $50,000 this year for removal, $50,000 for reinstallation. And the plan is to put in some kind of another information plaque about Guillermo Granizzo, and like, how do you learn more about the history of Monterey, and just something informational on that wall. So that was coming up there.
So we're taking all the tiles off.
They're going to take off all the tiles because they did a test. They took off the first couple, then they did a test, and there's no way to know exactly which ones were put on really well and which ones were not. And so out of abundance of caution, it's to just take off all of it and look at the best way to reinstall it all together properly. Other than that, I don't know if, also, if Melissa, if you have any comments on anything. All right. Yeah.
Okay, any commissioner comments?
Nothing from my end.
I have a comment. I would like to thank you for your being chair for the last year. I think you did a great job. Thank you.
Very much. Brand new, and it was kind of a shock, but it's been fun.
But
I've
you did
enjoyed
well.
it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Wow. I thought you would, Joe.
Oh, nope, just thank you also for the music series. It's great to get that back.
Thank you. Very happy
Yeah.
about that.
I would certainly second that comment.
Thank you. Monique?
I'll join. I echo the sentiments.
Yeah. Monique, did your subcommittee have anything to report?
We really don't. We're kind of stalled at the moment with the Monterey Angels. Just we were trying to maybe do something with 4th of July, and that it just wasn't going to work out with the flag display going on and whatnot. So we'll keep trying. Philip and I will. And then the other thing is, I'm curious as to when we might see the public art policy come back.
And that one, the public art, thanks for the question. So that I asked Ariana, who was working on that, to connect back. We are meeting with the Monterey County Arts Council, got postponed twice, and we want to meet with them before we go forward. We just met with Community Development Director Kim Cole last week, again, to kind of go over the project, to get questions and clarifications, and then we're going to bring it back to our city attorney. We're going to submit it to our city attorney, and then I don't know how long that will take. The city attorney will review the policy and to look at the legal language on that. And then we can bring that back for review. So hopefully, Ariana should be working on submitting that to our city attorney, I believe, in the next 2 weeks. So that should be this calendar year. My hope was actually to have the policy to council, but I think it's being delayed based on kind of getting all the feedback and meetings, rescheduling and scheduling, but that should be coming in this year.
Anything else? Okay, our next meeting will be August the 6th.
Yeah.
John will be presiding. So with that, I shall adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.